So welcome back, everybody. Can you hear me? Welcome back. And in time for an interesting new format for R2R. But first of all, thank you to Digital Science for being a bronze sponsor. We're certainly looking forward to this session. So as I said, it's a new format. It's a case study. And we have a panel here moderated by Stacey Burke, who's going to reveal the story of the Subscribe to Open initiative at the American Physiological Society. So, over to you, Stacey.
Everybody hear me okay? Yes, great. I don't want to scare everybody in the room, but your lives depend on physiology. Physiology depends on publishing, and publishing depends on trust, as many of my publishing colleagues will know in this room. And who better to join me than researchers from my community and a partner that really helped us engage that community and is teaching me some valuable lessons. So really what we're going to do is walk you through all the audiences that we tried to reach, what we got right, what we got not so right, and why these two, I get to say what we got right, they have to say what they helped me correct that was wrong. And I'm not going to bore everyone with what Subscribe to Open is, but really it's very similar to community engagement. It doesn't stop, so we do this every year, and every year we have to do the same thing, rinse and repeat. And the reason we do this is for our community, which is a few members here, and it's strengthened through global collaboration. So when we really looked at this model, we're like, how can we expand the knowledge of physiology? And we know that our science needs to be shared, cited, and built upon globally, and what a better module to do this. So we went to our librarians, who will always give me their opinion, and I appreciate that. And really what they need are access to quality content. They need long-term pricing stability. They need to be flexible because all of my institutions are different, and they need that enhanced value. I know that a lot of people talk about Subscribe to Open and what is the additional value that they're receiving at their university. So that's what we got right. We partnered with Purpose. We have a Publish with Purpose with Wolfgang. We'll talk to you a bit. And we went to our librarians and we did everything that we thought was right? We had an advisory group. We did interviews, and we had iterative messaging based on regions and different sizes. And they said, well, we need to know how you spend your money as a nonprofit. We need that transparency report. So I felt very, very good about everything that we were doing because we had a great model. And I will bore people for a second, but we have an archive that we give access to anyone that subscribes to the model. We have an OA publishing guarantee, which allows authors of institutions that subscribe to our digital library, which is our whole portfolio, an OA guarantee even if we do not meet our financial triggers under S20. And then we have our legacy content, of course. So those are some archives about what we've done and what we've communicated to the libraries. And this is what we didn't get quite so right, not totally ugly, but authors said, what does this mean for me? I don't understand, And so what we found is that the community that we exist for didn't understand that we were doing something for them. So we really needed to articulate that better message to them. We didn't look like that guy completely, but and I won't go over all of these, but really we went to the market as a business model and not simultaneously engaging our community and seeing what they understood of the model and what they did. We didn't understand all these priorities vary amongst institutions. Some people just want access, some people want publishing, and so we really needed to access that community of those institutions to say, what do you need, really, and be able to directly engage with them at the right time. So, without further ado, the people you came to listen to understand why this mattered, we asked the leaders, and so I bring you to our leader, Wolfgang.
Thank you very much, Stacey. My name is Wolfgang Kuebler. I'm chair of physiology at the Medical University of Berlin with a cross appointment in physiology at the University of Toronto. And for the past 3 years, I've been the chair of the publications committee of the American Physiological Society. And that was just the time when we started to introduce S20. And so I had to get involved and familiarize myself with this entire concept. Stacey loves me because at some stage I said, before the end of my career, I want to publish a paper at least in every of our APS portfolio journals. For the sake of this case study, I think it's important to realize that the portfolio of the American Physiological Society is here we see, is a group of community-led journals. And so our community is really very much invested in these journals. We have a very faithful group of readers. The journal existed for more than 100 years, who really want to read their monthly reports from the journals and what is published there. And we also have, of course, a very invested community within our society and within our authors who value these journals, who want to publish their work there, who want to know what it means in the future to publish open access in these journals. And they not only like to publish in the journals because they have this long history and good scientific standing in the community, but also because they know that publishing with the American Physiological Society, which is a non-profit organization, basically gives back the revenues from these publications directly to the community in order to promote early career training, advocacy, and of course the conferences from the physiological societies in order to promote the discipline. So what we faced when we introduced Subscribe to Open to the American Physiological Society was a lot of questions from our community, our readers, our authors, as well as our leadership, who basically, as myself, as a researcher initially coming into this position at some stage, knew very little about gold or green open access, what are APCs, what is S2O, of course, and we needed to engage them, first of all, of course, because we had to explain to the society leaders why we thought that going for S2O would be a good decision. Second, because our community, as I mentioned, very heavily invested in the journals, needed to understand where are we going, what does that mean for them as readers, as authors, but mostly, and that's, I think, the most important point, coming around in a full circle, we needed them to engage into the concept, to act as advocates for the S2O concept for our journals. I will talk about that in a minute. So how did we go about that? Well, we had various ways of educating, of communicating with the community in order to explain the different models of open access. What does S2O mean? We had town halls, we had manuscript in our membership physiology journal, the Physiologist, in order to explain what we're doing here. And we had repeated and extensive discussions, of course, with our leadership, who were concerned, what are we doing here? I mean, fair and equitable access sounds great, but of course they wanted to have a model that is sustainable, that basically provides revenue to the society, which can then be driven back to the community, and they didn't want us to do anything crazy with the portfolio. So that was extensive discussions, and of course we had a lot of questions from our authors who said, well, what does that mean? Open access in general, of course, but what does it mean for me from my institution? When I publish with you, will it be open access? Will it not be open access in the Subscribe to Open format? And basically we had to explain to them, well, if you want to make sure that it's open access, then you have to convince your institutions and your librarians to buy into that model and to subscribe, and otherwise you may have open access, but you may not, depending on whether the journals flip or not. What we provided then was to our institutions, and that's now going to our community, and that's now going sort of full back circle, and using the community as an advocacy was a tool that they could individually check whether their institutions had bought into the Subscribe to Open model with APS. And if not, they could go to their librarians and to their deans and to their institutions and say, hey, we really want to have access to these papers, we really want to publish open access with these journals, and that's why you should buy into the Subscribe to Open model. And so we basically turned our community and our leaders, our readers, our authors into a group of advocates for Subscribe to Open, to use their role models, their trusted voices as researchers, as science leaders, as community to promote this model, we basically created this sort of tool where everybody can act as APS Publications ambassador, whatever you can call it, cheerleader, evangelist, yeah, for this model. And that really then not only brought everybody behind the idea, but really allowed for the success of this model, because we got a lot of buy-in from the community, who then went to their institutions and said, hey, you have to subscribe to that, and you have to engage. And I think that's what really, in the end, brought it home. With that, I'm going to hand over to Dennis Brown, who is our Chief Science Consultant at the American Physiological Society, because, of course, in the end, it's all about publishing the science.
Okay, thanks very much, Wolfgang. I want to say, first of all, that this is not the type of meeting that I and certainly Wolfgang usually come to, but for me, it's been an eye-opener, and I think we need to do more of this. For me, it's been really fantastic to talk to people from the librarians to the publishers, consultants, etc. So thank you very much for engaging with us and for doing this, and I'd love to come again. It was wonderful.
I think, Mark, you've got an evangelist up here.
That's right, I'm an evangelist, yeah. So I'm in a bit of an unusual position here, because I am the Chief Science Advisor for the American Physiological Society, but I'm also an active researcher still, even at my advanced age. We have a lab in the Massachusetts General Hospital. We do kidney research, and it won't have escaped your attention that you're all physiologists, really, because you all pee, right? So it's not without note that when Mark was doing the introduction, the first thing he said is told you where the bathrooms were. Okay, so that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit. So yeah, I've published a lot of papers in the APS journals, and so I've followed the S20 episode with a lot of interest, and now with enthusiasm. So first of all, though, physiology is a word that really is somewhat misunderstood or even not known. People think we're psychiatrists or physicians or whatever. And so we engaged a company called JPA to make some videos for us, and we heard yesterday in one of the mini lightning talks that videos is the best way to communicate with at least with the younger generation. So we made a video, and what I'm going to show you now is a very short, abridged version of a 5-minute video that you can find on YouTube. The full-length video is here on this QR code. But it was interesting. They came to our lab, they came to other labs, and they did some filming. So I'm going to show you this video to start with for about a minute. And it was aimed at different audiences to show them what physiology is, what physiology does. And therefore, what I'll come to is why it's important to get this published and distributed among the community.
How your body works, how your body functions, that itself is physiology.
Physiology is also a federal funding.
It's going to have a catastrophic impact on science.
The world was pretty bleak without funding physiology.
We're almost bottlenecking our potential.
And that is an unmitigated disaster. Do we want breakthroughs that change lives, that save lives, or do we want to do backwards?
There you go. So that was part of the video, and you'll see that it's an extended version if you do the QR code. So we had fun making that, and hopefully it's going to work, and we'll see. So the physiology is the science. It brings everything together. The campaign is called The Science Life Depends On, which it does. But the science life depends on it being distributed. And so we want to protect and strengthen physiology. We need action. We need to do things that are going to move the field. So we're promoting physiology, we're promoting it via S20 as one of the other things. And we had a lot of discussion several years ago when some of the government mandates, the grant mandates, the funding mandates moved to open access. And we were a little concerned that it would hit our bottom line and enable us, or make us not able to continue the programs that we were doing already. Conferences, the publications group, awards that we recycle the money back into. And so S20 was an experiment, really, and it still is a pilot. It's an experiment. And we're hoping it's worked. It looks good over the first couple of years. Will it continue? We hope so, and we think it will. So we want to improve how we share this science through S2O. So Subscribe to Open was a way that we took a risk and we dived into that, and as I said, I think it's working okay. So as I said, I've been involved with the APS for many, many years and came up through the publication ranks, and I've been editor of some of their journals. I was the president in 2017 to 18, and now their chief science advisor. So I've got, as I said, one foot in the staff camp and one foot in the camp of the scientist. And it puts me in a kind of a unique position to see both sides of the story. So physiology powers breakthroughs, and one that affects many, many people, obviously, is pregnancy. And there's a lot of work in our physiology journals which show about maternal cardiovascular research, show how things that happen to the mother can affect the newborn child, even later in life. And so this is one of the types of physiology that we're interested in. Obviously, there's many, many more. Breakthroughs, we're obviously interested in things that promote national attention, and this is one of them is drinking, and I mean drinking alcohol here. This was an article that appeared in National Geographic, and this article, what is the healthiest way to drink? And I think the answer probably is don't do it. So that's
Sorry.
So that's it. I'll see you in the bar afterwards, right?
Are you buying?
So yeah, I'm buying. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
hey.
It's going to be cheap after this talk. Yeah. But I'd like to turn to another thing that we have a joke in the renal community that if you want to get into the national press, you publish a story on how much should I drink per day, and I'm talking about water now. So I see all of these bottles on the table. So I want you to all take one of these waters, and I want you to drink a liter of water right now. No takers. Okay. All right. There wouldn't be many people in the room after about 5 minutes if we did that. So one of an old friend of mine, Heinz Waltin, he died about maybe 8 or 9 years ago, but he was a guy working in the Department of Physiology, and he discovered a breed of rat called the Brattleboro rat, where it was found in Brattleboro, Vermont. They didn't find it in the sewers, they found it in the breeding facility. And it doesn't have a hormone that allows you to concentrate your urine. And so these little rats pee their own body weight in urine every day. So a 250-gram rat will pee 250 ml of urine. That means it's extremely dilute, they have to drink. We're not the same as that, except that there are diseases that we work on in my lab. It's called nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, where people do not have this hormone, or they don't respond to the hormone, and they pee 20 liters of urine a day. And so part of my lab is trying to figure out what's going on here. Now, how much most of you don't have nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, but how much do you need to drink? And so Heinz Waltin looked at this myth of 8 by 8, and he concluded that I have found no scientific proof that we must drink at least 8 glasses of water a day. Nor proof, it must be admitted, that drinking less does absolutely no harm. So with the exception of people, the conclusion right now is that with the exception of some diseases, special circumstances, if you're exercising, if you're sweating in a hot climate, there's absolutely no need to drink 8 glasses a day. It doesn't take into account from the food, from other sources like tea and coffee also count. Now, to prove that this was true, I asked AI, and we've heard a lot about AI in this talk. So I asked my friend Claude, and I said, first of all, Claude, when I opened him up, said, "Good morning, Dennis. How may I help you today?" I said, "Oh, thank you, Claude. That's really nice of you." So, yeah. So it's a little scary, isn't it, really? And so I said to Claude, do we need to drink 8 glasses of water per day? What is the scientific evidence? And Claude said, "This is a great example of a widely repeated health rule that turns out to be largely a myth when examined scientifically." And blah, 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 blah. So Claude agrees, right, with this, and one of the papers cited was this actually Heinz Waltin paper. So I think this is a pretty reasonable use of AI, but this is just for a bit of fun, really, because I knew the answer already. So the breakthroughs that we have in physiology that now are coming up through S2O, some things you may not think of. The mouth may hold clues to brain health. So rinse out your mouth, take care of your mouth, and you'll have a happy brain. Another one that was very, very much cited in one of our newest open access journals called Function was during the COVID epidemic. And this was an article that showed a relationship between the protective effects of actually mouthwash, antiseptic mouthwash, and a reduction in COVID infections. And this is probably the most cited article that we've actually published in Function. But so gum disease can be linked to Alzheimer's, mouthwash can protect you from infections, etc. This is kind of widely known, but it came to the fore in at least in these two articles and many more. And so with that, I'd just like to conclude by saying, you know, our journals are important. We love the community that we're working in. It's a super community. We have a nice meeting called the APS Summit every year. We get together, we talk, we have people working on the heart, the lung, the brain, the gut, the kidneys, and we realize that they all come together. They're all talking to each other all the time. While we have sections dealing with each individual one, the most common and the best attended sessions are ones that do organ crosstalk, where we learn how the lung talks to the kidney, how the heart talks to the lungs and the kidney, how the gut talks to the brain, etc. So this is where we're going now in the future, and I think the future of physiology is to learn at the systemic level how all of our organs work together. And that's what we hope to promote and progress in, and we hope that S2O will give us this push. Okay. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Afternoon, everybody. We all good? Should I get you to stand up and do some star jumps? No? No? Anyone need a wee?
First.
No? Okay. I've just come off a year of Manjaro, and it didn't just stop me wanting to eat, it stopped me wanting to drink. So if I listened to Claude, I'd be dead. Like, I wouldn't have drunk anything. Ah. Yeah, no. So I probably need that 8 glasses of water a day to make me think about it. Okay, so I remember when I was at the RSC, we had an article, and it was that if you drink a glass of wine a day, it's good for you. I mean, I don't know if that's been disproven now. This was like 2011, something like that. Does it work? Is it good for you?
It's not good for you.
No, it's not? Oh, the physiologist says.
It's not bad either, but it's not good.
Okay. Damn it. Okay, so like Stacey, I'm an active member of the S2O community of practice. Raise of hands, who has heard of the S2O community of practice? Whoop, whoop. Okay, brilliant. So this is about breaking the mold in terms of things that we're doing. It's amazing to see our organizations in our industry trying different things, and we sometimes do things that we have distractors and disruptors, and some people don't like it, and that's okay. But we have to try these things. We have to learn from our lessons, what works and what doesn't. So I'm here to represent some of the team at APS on the things that they have been doing, not to talk about, hey, this is what we do, come work with us. This is about APS. So what worked for them in this S2O initiative that they've been doing and that they've been introducing, library partnerships. Hugely important to have the community engagement. Stacey talked about talking with libraries, listening to libraries, talking through how should this work. As a society, as a member body, they have to look after their members. You have 2 of their members here. They have to be fit for the future. This has to be sustainable. They have to try different things to make sure that they're there for their members. There are thousands of members all over the world. And they also, as part of their S2O initiative, have an OA guarantee, and they have the author benefits as well. So there are things in this that we know that's worked really well, but you know, this is the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So what did we learn? Because it's not ugly, it's not bad, it's just what did we learn and what are we going to change for next time? So, of course, you know, we've had so much change that's happened, especially in the geopolitical landscape, and we have seen societies, not-for-profits, commercials, lots of different types of organizations having to look outside of their own countries and looking at their international perspective, looking at their international author communities. We can't rest on our laurels anymore from what we have in the US. Actually, we need to start thinking about this. So what they learned is, like language. I did a piece recently in Scholarly Kitchen about localization. And it's about, sometimes you've got to change your terms. And when we chatted about that recently, didn't we, about an email that went out to some people in the UK. It's like, oh, when you do the date here, you do it differently than you do in the US. You know, lots of little things, but little things that make a difference. So Deborah is an incredible individual, for those of you that know Deborah as well, because Deborah's been in this community a while. So Deborah's role now is, Stacey?
Yeah, I'm like, and Deborah works for me. But no, she does our digital platform, but really she's about user engagement. And I'll say, before she came in, I was like, oh, I think we have some. She's like, you don't. So she's been really, essential in this.
Yeah, she's there for, fighting for the people. Let's get the feedback. It's considered, for those of you that are part of our workshop, we talked about community engagement. Engagement is about two-way conversation. It's not outreach, it's not pushing things out. And she uses lots of different tools like Hotjar to check the feedback, or Crazy Egg to look at heat maps. And also it's about thinking about the practical engagement methods of how you're actually engaging with the community. But also, as a society, as a not-for-profit, every one of you works at an organization that has your limitations, that has your boundaries. It doesn't matter who you are. But what are the lessons that you need to do that are within your resources? And then externally and internally, like S2O, like what? Who understands S2O? Oh my goodness. You see, no one put their hand up. Maybe want to. Oh, thank you, Hannah. Thank you for supporting me. Hannah works with me. Of course she's going to support me. She's brilliant. But yeah, I mean, it's really confusing, these different models, these different initiatives. How do we ensure that the messaging is clear, it's consistent? It's not a one-stop shop. It's not a one-trick pony. We are going to have to keep on educating people. So the messaging needs to be about what it is and how we're doing. Well, actually, I really follow Simon Sinek, so I'm all about the why first, and then it's about the how and the what. But it's about using the right language. So whoever you're talking to, talk to them in a way that they understand, not how you think that they should understand. And there's a need for stronger and authentic engagement, that two-way listen and talk and feedback. But it's not just about listening and changing something. Close the loop of communication. Innovation, it needs to happen to learn. That's what's so important about this. The S2O community of practice calls are brilliant because they're a platform where multi-stakeholder groups come together in an open environment and talk about what they really feel is important and everybody's heard. So, I'll give you a couple of examples here from APS. So they improved what they were doing based on the data. Deborah had given me a really nice example of actually when they created this tool to help them to find the right place to publish. It was about people were going on the page and they were clicking on the image, which was the example. They weren't clicking on the tool. So it was like, okay, well, we just need to change that because the behavior is they're doing this. So a little bit of simple analysis and change. Actually, now we're changing the user behavior so that it's easier for them to use the tool. Change your approach, more progressive disclosure in terms of finding information that pertains to the situation that they're in. Where are they scrolling? What are they doing? Make a difference sooner. So prioritize the areas where you didn't need to have external support. What can you do internally inside your teams that can make a little change but can actually have a big impact? And I know that priorities are really hard and some of us just don't know how to do it, but we have to. Something has to give. You'll always have something on your list that never gets done, and you've got to be okay with that. And then understand the impact. So better ways of measuring S2O, like what could the metrics be around that? What's the impact about that? Who got published that may not have been published before? And then what did that lead to? So really thinking about the bigger impact, the broader impact on the community.
Yeah, thanks, Lou. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, I mean, I think, we did talk a lot about what we do, so I know that it's not all perfect by any means, but it's a lesson to say, we're thinking, oh, this is going to be a great idea, and we just go out to the market, and then we're like, okay, we're done. That's really adorable. You are not. You have to continue to do this every year and continually get feedback and have that continual feedback loop. One of the points that you both had mentioned, Dennis and Wolfgang, is the publish with purpose. And I'll tell everybody that was a campaign that we had launched in 2021. And I was like, it's very important. And I think our leaders really, really cared. But my question is, who else cares? Who really cares if we're publishing and putting the revenue back into the community that we served? Anybody? It's you guys.
I think all of our members. I think that all of our members care, and this is why the society journals I think are so important because we try and put the money back into the community, And they appreciate that.
I mean, you're a great example. I mean, you showed your career path. I mean, it really, and not to say that it was all APS, I like to take credit, but it was really a good fostering program for you, and you've stuck with it for all these years. So how do you translate that to others?
Well, I think that it was a family, really. That's what we had. We family. I mean, I've known Wolfgang for many, many years now, and so we all get together, act together, we talk together, and publish together. So I think that the S2O was something I certainly didn't understand it when it took about 20 times for somebody to explain it to me. I thought it was a chemical symbol to start with, sulfur oxide or something. It took a long time for it to get into my brain, but now I do understand it, and I think, is it going to be the ideal solution in the end? We hope so, but time will tell. But it gives us an opportunity now to spread to communities where at least open access is necessitated by the funding organizations, which is obviously coming in the States now as well. One of the other things that we're a little concerned about in the States is the limitation on grant budgets that can be used to pay for research publications. What the limit is that the NIH is going to allow is not certain right now, but because the director of NIH, Jay Bhattacharya, founded a journal where the publication cost is $2,000. My guess is it's going to be $2,000. So we'll see. And that's going to be the limit. That's going to be how much we can pay from our grants. So we have to find a way to make the publication cheaper.
Yeah, I think Dennis said most of the things that I would respond as well. I think the critical word was family for these communities, and that's true. As you probably realize, I'm not based in the United States. Still, American Physiological Society has been my home society for 2 decades because it's really an international organization, and people feel that way because not only you have a community where you present your work and discuss it, but also because it gives back to you through the conferences, through the advocacy, through the journals, etc. And I think that is the big plus that we experienced in this S2O campaign, because the community saw the benefit that they received from the journals, from the society, and therefore, in order to sustain this published with purpose campaign, they were willing and able to commit to it and to support us and to act as advocates for the S2O campaign and support us globally in order to make that happen. And without our community and our members and our authors, that would not have been possible.
Yeah. I think just to add on to that, Wolfgang, is that we're called the American Physiological Society, but in fact, over 25% of our members are international. Yeah. And they do have foreigners in the United States, as you can tell. I live and work there as well. So.
And more than 40% of our or 50% of our authors are international.
They are.
Yeah. I was like, the authors, it's even
Probably
broader.
more soon.
And if we talk, well, maybe. I mean, and this is why we're talking about, and it's really about the science. So that campaign that he showed you, that he'll be giving autographs after, really is about communicating the science to the public and saying that these physiological breakthroughs happened because of physiology, and the reason that we were able to have insulin. So be able to take that, but really, as much as Stacey can stand up here and talk about it, nobody really cares as much as hearing it from the researchers. So, really what I think about is that, authors and researchers care that are doing this research, but we're not communicating it effectively. So, we've made some twists and turns to say, okay, this is not what we're doing, and this is why I'm taking them on the road with me.
I think
to really talk about it.
I think one important point, and your Manjaro episode is important here, GLP-1 agonists. So this was the GLP-1 agonists that have now come into fame were discovered decades ago. So in the 1980s, the early 1990s, we moved offices. I moved offices at the Mass General Hospital last year, and I actually got the office of a guy called Joel Haebner. And Joel Haebner, he died about a month ago, but he was in line for the Nobel Prize for discovering the GLP-1 agonists with a couple of other people as well. But what people don't realize, it was discovered so long ago, and like all drugs, it took 3 decades before it becomes marketable. But what also is not realized very often is that the marketable form of GLP-1 is derived from the venom of the Gila monster, the lizard type of thing. And so when people were looking at the saliva or the venom of the Gila monster, people said, oh, why are you doing this? This is rubbish, don't do that. And yet it turns out to be one of the biggest breakthroughs that's in the obesity epidemic that's come through. So what I'm saying that for is because we need access to the back issues, we need access to the history of physiology and of science in general, and we need to do that in a sustainable way and dependable way, not just have the greatest hits and the latest fantasies on our doorstep, but we need also to go back and look at this and say, hey, if we had not have funded this and published this work 30 years ago on this ridiculously speculative Gila monster venom, we would not today have this Manjaro. Yeah. And so that's another reason that we like this S2R, because and like society publishing and publishing in general, but we need to make sure that it's accessible over the long term, and so we can link the dots and come to a present day drug and improve health.
So you're saying I've been injecting myself with lizard?
I think so, yeah.
Amazing.
I think so. Yeah.
I think, if there's questions, please feel free to raise your hand, and I know that they'll go around the audience. But Lou, one of the questions...
Are you worried about who's going to ask you a question, Stacey? No, okay, just checking.
Are you?
No.
I'm in power here. I get
know.
to choose who. No, Lou, I wanted you to talk a little bit about, because I think, when I was just at your session for the community, I think it does seem like a really big task to get user engagement.
Yeah.
And so, I was talking to these guys. These guys are easy. I know how to get in touch with them. They're a very close community. It's the rest of the group that we really want to be able to serve and know that we're serving them with this new model. How do we engage them? And so my question for you is, how do we do that from a small society without getting burnt out? I'm asking for a friend.
Well, so one of the things that we've talked about in our workshop is you can't be everything for all. You do have to choose who are the communities that we want to engage with. And when I say engage, I don't mean pushing messages out, I don't mean outreach, I don't mean broadcasting, I don't mean doing webinars and things like that. I mean actually talking with, and the fact is, Stacey, is that you have really good engagement with two people here who also have their networks that they engage with, and they're advocates for you. So part of it is around having those advocates, but it's about trust and authenticity. What comes out of the society, what comes out of an organization needs to resonate, and you need to be trusted. And some of it is also, we forget about the people that we work with and the incredible people at organizations, but sometimes when someone says an organization's name in a researcher community and it's a bigger commercial publisher, researchers are like, But actually, there are some incredible people who work at these organizations, and people sell to people. Hannah knows I say this all the time. People sell to people, not companies to people. So it is so important that you have those genuine, authentic engagements. It is so hard now with so many different media channels, with so many different ways of connecting. We see organizations using Reddit now with advertising to researchers to get them to submit. We see them using LinkedIn now. We know someone that had like a 65% conversion rate was sending in-mail on LinkedIn to researchers. Everybody's trying lots of different things, like trying things like S2O. We have to try these different things to find the right mix. And we all know that different communities, especially subject communities, react differently. So something that I'm going to do to someone that sounds so wrong. Something that we're going to communicate with or send out or engage with someone in humanities is going to be very different to engaging with yourself. And I often see humanities as a subject area that's not always represented well on panels or in these discussions. Like today's been very science focused. But we have to think about different pain points, and we have to think about who are the people that we want to reach. And the last example that I'll give, when my 8-year-old comes to me and says, "Mummy, can I have some money for Roblox?" She really doesn't sound like that because she's Welsh. But can I have some coins for Roblox? Because I want to buy a BMW. And I'm like, oh. So for me, like own the car, sit in the car, drive the car, smell the car. I don't really go in and smell the car, but you know what I mean. So new car smell. She wants a car virtually in Roblox. So as members, early career researchers, students, whoever we're working with, whoever it is, as they come up, it's like, how does an organization or a brand continue to remain relevant when we're in a post-digital world that we have to communicate with them physically like this, virtually in a virtual environment, but also digitally. It's really hard, but we just have to find the right mix and then just keep going, but be authentic. Societies are societies, and members are very loyal to their societies. Commercial entities don't have that so much with that loyalty.
Yeah,
but they have a bit, but not the same.
No, exactly. When you talk about authenticity, that's exactly this whole point. I authentically launched a business model because that was my remit.
Yeah.
What I didn't authentically do is communicate the science, and I will never be able to be authentic in that.
Yeah.
I will be giving some talking points, but it's going to be these guys. When you talk about,
Questions, Stacey, on the floor?
Say again?
We need some questions.
Oh, we have a question. Do we have a question?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Let's go.
Thank you. It's a great discussion, and it's actually fantastic to actually hear some real science as well in one of these meetings. So, great panel, thank you. I must apologise profusely because I'm going to ask you a question about your model.
Please.
So, you talk about subscribe to open, and the subscribe to open that I am familiar with is as long as there are a group of librarians that subscribe, all content in that journal is published, is open, basically. All universities don't have to subscribe. Is that your model as well? Because you have a journal finder to see whether your university has subscribed, and if they have, then it's free for you to publish.
Sort of. So, good. Did you want to explain my model to see if it worked?
Oh, I like it.
Yes.
I can start. In principle, yes, but the way why you would check first whether your university subscribed is if your university subscribed, then you have a guaranteed open access publication.
Well, there's an interjection there. And that's the difference in the model. So we have our digital library, so we have 16 journals. We have 2 that are partner published, so we have no control, and then the rest are in-house. One's a diamond journal, and then we just brought another one that's gold OA, and then we have 12 other journals. 2 are our review journals. I know, are you keeping up? And then, and then we have the 10 journals. If you subscribe to that full package, which is all of our journals that need access, then you get this OA guarantee. But there's another element to it, and so this is kind of new. We keep twisting it, right? When we did the OA guarantee, nobody understood it, and we explained it, and when we explained it, everybody's like, well, I want it. This is a great model, and it's basically a transformative agreement. So what we but it's exactly that. And so what we had done, we had started with JISC, and we were at JISC's office on Monday to give a presentation that these guys talked at too, and they really wanted, a different model, and that was my first transformative agreement. Well, Iowa State was when we did everything manually, and then we did it systematically with them. And they were like, I don't want to take that away. I want this because it gives us additional benefits to publish in these review journals, and it does. So I was like, okay, I'm now hearing the market saying, we really want a lot of models. And I saw Bernie in the room, and when I was at OASPA, there were librarians there saying, we need more models, and it's going back to why we're piloting this. Subscribe to Open was safer because we could go back to a subscription and that's it, but we wanted to try this model. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it is, and I think this is what Lou's point is, that we're trying to improve the model, but we're making these changes that are not really comprehensible, right? So it may be helpful to, but now we've got some time to get some traction. And the OA guarantee is with my partners here from ASM. It's them and us that are only doing it right now. That I believe, but anybody else chime in. So it's going to take some traction.
Yeah, I was trying to work out what's the difference between what you were saying and a transformative agreement.
Yep.
Many journals have transformative agreements with librarians.
Yes, they do. And so, but all those transformative agreements are negotiated at the library, and they're negotiated on what they need. So we have that option, but the subscribe to open, so for example, we have over 2,000 customers. I wish that me and my one other person could physically talk to those 2,000 every year, but we can't. So what we're doing is saying, okay, well, you guys are going to be opening, and these journals will be open, and you'll be able to publish without an APC, but only if we meet our triggers. And I really will say, I've talked to other publishers that are doing S2O, and the cracks that they're seeing in the model are those individual subscriptions. And so people are saying, well, it's open, why should I subscribe? Which is a natural attrition that people are going to encounter. If we can give them more, they may stick on, right? And so that entire archive that we have that is very foundational, and Dennis could bring a million research examples of it, we want people to use that. I mean, and so far this year, since we've done that, we've had a 30% increase on that archive. And so I feel like that's a little bit of an excitement, but, you know.
Shows how important that science still is.
Yeah. Of course, Stacey explained that much more detailed and much better than I could.
Longer.
The gist for me always is, I think from the outside, it's a great model because it's equitable, it's fair for both the readers and the authors. But of course, in the real market, everybody asks, what's in it for me? Why should I actually do it? And so we have, and that's always my way of looking at it, we have to provide incentives to the individual institutions and to the individual subscribers to buy into it. And that's something that is, of course, a sort of moving target, what's the best incentive, and we use our legacy content, we use the review journals, etc., to leverage that, the open access guarantee for people from these institutions. But you have to provide something to people in order to buy in. If you just say it's for the greater good, people would say, why should I do it? Why not the others? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that that's our, one of our next steps, and we'll get to Rick in a second, is that, we want authors to know that they can publish it. So while we are open, we're like, hey, authors, you have this opportunity, come publish with us, because then it just makes it easier for us to talk to institutions. So, we talk about working on a small scale. This is like my next remit. I'm like, I want to go to your institutions and talk to the authors. I want to go to everybody it's talking about the science, and it's also talking about how they can publish with us, but it's also a benefit to them and their institution.
Who needs a mic?
My name's Rick Anderson. I work in a library, and I want to point out a subtlety that might sound very picky, but it's actually extremely important from the library side. And that is that when we're deciding whether or not to participate in an S20 program, we're not just asking ourselves, first of all, we're not primarily asking ourselves, how can we support open access? Many of my colleagues are very excited about open access, but for most libraries, that's not actually their mission. But beyond that, the question isn't, is there something good coming to us in exchange for this money that would not come to us if we didn't pay it? More specifically, it's the money that we are allocated by our universities is given to us for specific purposes. If we stop using it for those purposes and start using it for different purposes, we run a very serious risk of no longer getting that money if that new purpose isn't in alignment with what our university wants the library to do. So to the degree that your S20 program actually involves the library paying money for access to content, and you're calling it S20, and however you can figure that at your end, it's much more likely the library is going to be able to continue to allocate its budget in that way. To the degree that the benefits that come with S20 participation involve something other than getting access to content, that's when it starts getting really difficult for the library. And of course, the irony here is that to the degree that your S20 program involves paying money for content, we start asking ourselves, to what degree is it actually an S20 program? But that doesn't really matter so much to us. You can call it whatever you want. Call it a ham sandwich, and we're fine as long as we're getting good value for money and buying the right kind of thing with the money that has been allocated.
I just addressed that a little bit. So from a researcher point of view, and what I'm going to say is pie in the sky right now. So if you look, and this will depend on the institution, but if you look at the money that the researchers are saving by not paying large fees to go into normal journals or non-open access journals or even open access journals, then the university overall, taking indirect costs into account and taking the grants into account, may actually be a break-even prospect. So even if you, in the library budget, you see, and I know this is in a pocket, it's not distributed all over the place, and I understand this, and what's in one bag might not go into another bag. But if you look at it from the global point of view of the university, you could argue that by doing this, if you give us maybe a couple of $1,000s more a year, you're going to save $100,000 in money that researchers are not spending to publish, and therefore they can buy they can do their research a little bit better, they can have more resources, they can use the cause better, they can pay more people, blah, blah, blah. And I understand that's kind of pie in the sky, but that's what...
I think they're giving us the hook, but I think to Rick's point too is that, you know, it's really about going to the local interests. But I think you're right. It's not, you know, some people care about the community and they want to open it up, and that's this group. But libraries are like, that's not what I need. I need to have access to quality content, and we need to make sure that that happens. I think more journals should be closing to make sure that that's a reality. But I also like the success of it, so. Okay.
We done?
It's not about community or not.
No, you're right. I don't think Rick doesn't care about our community.
Can I ask Rick a question? Rick, you mentioned about what's not your mission. Now, libraries have hugely had to change what you do, how you do it over the years, constant flux. And organizations are in constant flux, societies are in constant flux. But I'm just really interested to hear from your perspective, what do you feel that for at your institution, in your role, what's your library's mission?
And I'll be very, very brief because I know we're at the end. Yeah. There are many things about the work of library that have changed over time. Yeah. One thing that has not changed is an absolutely core function of any institutional library, which is to serve as a broker on behalf of the institution in securing access to expensive content. Mm-hmm. There are many librarians who would like that to change, who would like the library's mission, instead of being buying content, to be underwriting the production of open content. It's a conversation absolutely worth having. Absolutely. It's ultimately a decision that's going to be made not by us, but by our sponsoring institutions.
Great.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay.
Excellent point. All right, thank you.
All right, we're good.
So
Thank
I
you.
think that's a good point to bring the conversation to a close. So first of all, thank you, Stacey, and your panelists. Great, interesting revelations about S2R, and I'm sure there'll be more to come. So thank you very much indeed. So,
always.
Welcome.